Hello and welcome to Archvelder's Hacks with Archvelder and his amazing hacks. In this video I'm going to show you a raid route for raw gold farming. This is the fastest way to make raw gold from old raids, and it uses techniques and tricks no one has ever published before. Also, the materials that drop from these raids make this a very good general gold farm, probably the best basic option for gold farmers in general. This is really a good way to make a token if you just want a simple method to grind out gold. Now, in this video we will be making extensive use of looking for raid dungeons. Killing old raid bosses is quite lucrative in itself. It takes seconds, and many can potentially drop over 100 gold. The problem is getting to them quickly enough. So we're going to sneakily exploit the LFR system to port ourselves directly in front of a ton of bosses. This location in the Seat of Knowledge above Mogoshan Palace in Pandaria has a Panda NPC called Lawwalker Han, who will transport you to every raid that was released during the Mists of Pandaria expansion. Now, we are going to use Han and other NPCs like him to transport directly to older raids without having to enter them individually through their instance portals. In the process, ignoring beautiful artwork, history, and a mountain of elegantly crafted lore, just like Steve Denusa. The first raid we're going to enter is Mogoshan Vaults. Make sure to kill all the stone lions in front of the first bosses. They can drop some nice stuff. Then kill the second boss and exit the dungeon. Now we queue for the Dread Approach. This is the first part of the Heart of Fear raid instance. Kill all the trash and the first two bosses here. We'll be coming back to this one later, as it is exceptionally profitable for an old raid. Now queue for the Nightmare of Shexia raid. This is part of Heart of Fear also, and kill the first boss only. This one is exceptionally fast. A lot of armor tokens tend to drop here, which are worth 50 gold each, and disproportionately increase the value of this boss. We'll come back to this later in the video for ways to exploit this even further. Now we queue for Terrace of Endless Spring. Kill the first boss. Now there's an interesting hack I developed here. Teleport out of the dungeon. Don't leave it, just teleport out. Now fly over to the entrance of Terrace of Endless Spring from Mogoshan Palace. The reason we do this is that there are 30 seconds of roleplay that can't be skipped between the first and second bosses being attackable. So we use that downtime to do something useful and travel to the profitable non-LFR version of Terrace. When at the entrance, teleport back into the LFR version of Terrace and complete it. Now leave the LFR version of Terrace, go into the normal version through the portal in front of you. Complete the whole thing again. This is a very efficient way to do both versions of Terrace. Again, note the number of tokens that can drop, especially the last boss, the Shah of Fear. Having completed both versions of Terrace, we now return to the Seat of Knowledge above Mogoshan Palace. Now we queue for Forgotten Depths, and that places you in Throne of Thunder, that's the original raid instance, in front of this truly marvellous tortoise, which takes only around 15 seconds to kill. Kill the bats as well, as they sometimes drop valuable notes of harmony and junk items worth a little extra gold. Now that's it for Mr. Pandaria for the time being. Use your Dalaran Hearthstone to port to the Broken Isles and fly over this wall to the Archmage here. First we're going to queue for the Dark Bow instance. You have to kill the blobs around the dragon here before you engage her. The dragon boss Nithendra drops an average of golden vendor items worth 80 gold, like all Legion bosses. This LFR boss is part of the Emerald Nightmare raid. One of my patrons came up with an ingenious hack to port directly from the LFR version of this raid to the normal and heroic versions, which adds a significant amount of gold to your hourly profits. But unfortunately, that's not mine to give away publicly. That and hundreds of other valuable gold making tricks can be found by signing up to my Patreon. I'll leave a link in the description below. Then queue for the Tormented Guardians and kill Ursok. Worth mentioning, Legion bosses take a little longer to kill than Panda or Draenor bosses, so it is worth blowing all your cooldowns each time you engage them, as these reset every time you kill a boss. Now, there's an important hack here. When you've killed Ursok, teleport out of the raid, but do not leave it. Immediately that you're back in Dalaran, teleport back into the same raid you've just left, and you'll be at its centre. Run up to this portal and engage the Dragons of Nightmare. Teleport back out and back in again, click on the thing in front of you, and then kill Cenarius. And now we're going to do Arcane Aqueducts. Just run around and kill the first Scorpion boss here. At this stage, you will hit Instance Lockout. I'll be recommending an alternative strategy for people who want to run these raids for the full hour later in the video. At this stage, I'm just presenting all the raids that can be run quickly enough to be worth doing. Next, run the Night Spire. Take this route round to the boss while mounted. Next, we have the Gates of Hell, which can be done in 45 seconds despite the amount of roleplay involved. After that, we have the Wailing Halls, which is one of the very fastest bosses to complete. You can do it in 15 seconds. Chamber of the Avatar is also extremely fast. Now we're going to run Seat of the Pantheon. That's the last raid on the LFR list. There's another hack I developed here. Queue for Seat of the Pantheon, and immediately after, queue for Hope's End. That's before you enter the raid instance. If you have poor gear, say under eye level 260, you might want to skip this one. There are 2 bosses in Seat of the Pantheon we need to kill. The second and final boss is not easy to kill before he enters his very time-wasting second phase, which makes this less profitable to run. That's if you're not keeping up with the gear curve. If you can kill the second boss quickly, you can get the full average of 160 gold in a minute or so from the 2 bosses. Now, the reason we queued for Hope's End at the same time as Seat of the Pantheon is that because we have killed the final boss in the original raid, the game knows we are done with this instance and allows us to port directly to Hope's End or any other raid we are queued for without having to port back to Dalaran, removing an unnecessary and time-consuming loading screen. Also, for some reason, if you do it this way, it ports you much closer to the boss Kingaroth. Once you've killed Kingaroth, take the transport to the Burning Throne. Run forward and kill Tarnith here to access 2 more bosses. Jump down and kill Varmirathras, and then run up the stairs to kill the Coven of Shivara. We are done with the Legion now, so use your Garrison Hearthstone to take you to Draenor. Unfortunately, for some stupid reason, Blizzard have nerfed the gold drops from Draenor bosses to be significantly less than Legion or Mists bosses, so you might want to skip this altogether if you just want to farm gold for a short period. Port to your garrison, and right outside is Sir Khazal. Here's your link to LFR Warlords of Draenor raids. There are 5 raids here which are very quick indeed. First is Imperator's Rise. Now use the hack I mentioned earlier and simultaneously queue for another raid. Kill Imperator Margok, and when you do, the other raid will pop up instantly. You can do this trick also with the very last LFR Draenor raid. Take the option Archimon's Fall at the Black Gate, which only takes seconds to complete. It's very fast, this one. The other options worth doing here are Halls of Blood, Bastion of Shadows. Be sure to one-shot the boss here as he enters his indestructible second phase very quickly, which wastes a lot of time. And once you're done with that, finally, Destructor's Rise. Quick as these are, each boss drops an average of only 50 gold, so you have to do them lightning fast to make it worthwhile. I generally do these anyway because I like to pick up my Garrison cash at the same time. Those resources are quite valuable for various Drano-based gold making activities. Also, sometimes there's a special quest in the Garrison lobby which may award additional gold for raid boss kills. Now, what I've done here is present you with a list of raids which can be done quickly and efficiently once a week per character. However, they can't all be done at once because of instance lockout. If you want to just do the very best instance in one lockout, try this revised list. The cool trick with this list is that we mostly avoid doing bosses from the same original raid instance. This is very poorly understood, but the maximum instance lockout rule of 10 raids doesn't apply to unique raids, so we can do 14 raids rather than just the 10. Now let me show you something magical. See these Spirits of Harmony I got from farming Heart of Fear? Watch me put them on the auction house. As you can see, they sell in real time. That's how much the auction house has changed since the region-wide auction house was introduced. Everything sells so much faster. Even though this is a raw gold video, it is worth considering selling the Spirits of Harmony, since it takes only fractionally longer to sell them than it does to vendor weapons and armor for raw gold. The spirits are in huge demand because you need vast quantities of them to make things like Sky Golem mounts, which allow you to pick up herbs while flying. The spirits add a lot to your profits, as each spirit is worth around 180 gold at the time I was making this video. They can drop from trash in all Mists of Pandaria raids, but mostly they come from Heart of Fear. So with that in mind, and breaking our self-imposed rule about raw gold only, and farming the Spirits of Harmony actively, let's look at another revised list I made for that purpose, where we start out by farming the Dread Approach trash 10 times up to the second boss. Note the inclusion of Mogoshan Palace on this list. This is not an LFR raid, it's a dungeon. It is, however, directly under the Seat of Knowledge, where you queue for Mists of Pandaria LFR dungeons. You simply enter the dungeon and pull all the trash up to the first boss. This isn't a great instance for raw gold, but an average of 5 motes of harmony drop from here on each run, so it is worth the minute it takes to do this unique instance. Now, you can run each raid once on each character per weekly lockout. Now, the speed of your character is quite important using this technique. Classes such as druids and monks can run these bosses in half the time I'm showing here. If you are stuck with a very slow class when doing these raids, one thing you can do very easily to increase your speed is switch Covenants to Night Fae to gain the Soul Shape ability. Switching Covenants to Night Fae at this stage of the expansion has no cost at all. You can change back to your main Covenant at any time. Soul Shape increases your run speed and gives you access to a blink-like ability which teleports you forward. Additionally, Mists of Pandaria instances can be made more profitable by the use of bonus rolls. To do this, go to the Timeless Isle in the southeast of Pandaria and go to this area in the southeast of the island and farm these frogs. The frogs drop lesser charms of fortune and timeless coins. 1,000 timeless coins can be turned into Mistweaver Eye for a Mogo Rune of Fate. The lesser charms can be turned into Commander Lo Ping in Townlong Steps here for Elder Charms of Good Fortune. Mogo Runes of Fate can be used for bonus rolls in Throne of Thunder raids like Forgotten Depths, and Elder Charms can be used in Mogoshan Vaults, Heart of Fear, and Terrace of Endless Spring. The bonus roll is either some amount of gold, I've seen up to 100 gold drop, but the average is something like 30 to 40, or dropped from the boss's loot table. A valuable hack here is to only use the charms on bosses with a drop table, which frequently awards armor tokens worth 50 gold, which are always the most valuable item drop. In order to maximize the value of these Elder Charms, you should only use them on the Shah of Fear in Terrace of Endless Spring and Windlord of Meljarak in the Nightmare of Shexia. Now, there are ways to earn gold faster on an hourly basis than using this technique, especially using some of these super powerful glitches you can find on my Patreon. but this is really as good as it gets for raw gold.